just remain standing and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
If you please be seated, state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Osyrus Terrell, Osyrusterrell.
Please proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Terrell. Do you remember the evening in the 5 o'clock hour of April 2nd, 2024?
Yeah.
Why do you remember that time and day?
It was pretty miserable. It was raining, like, pretty bad.
Where were you?
I was over by the beach.
And where, are we talking about in Milwaukee?
Cudahy.
Okay, is there a particular park or area that that beach is associated with?
Waramont.
Waramont Park?
Yes.
Okay, were you there with anyone?
Yeah, a buddy of mine.
Who is that?
Evan.
What's Evan's last name?
You couldn't ask me that a million times.
And you don't know?
No.
Okay, so what happened at the beach that made you remember this day?
We were walking down there, and there was a severed leg.
A severed human leg?
Yes.
Okay, where was that?
It was near the end of the trail down there.
Before we get into more details about that, could you describe what this area is like?
It's pretty, there's a lot of clay falling down from the cliff nearby, so it's pretty iffy if you can even get down there sometimes. And that week, it was raining pretty bad, like all week.
Okay, so you described the day that you were there as being pretty miserable in raining.
Yeah.
And you do you remember that it was raining previously in the week?
Yeah.
Okay, can you describe, Waramont Park's a big area, right?
Sort of.
Okay, can you describe the area and how you would get down to the beach area that you're telling us about?
So there's two ways you can go down there. You can start from Sheridan Park and walk down the trail that way, but you're still gonna have to climb over a lot of stuff. The other way is there's like a gate on the south side that you can go down, but the hill is pretty steep, and even when you get down there, you have to climb through a couple trees just to get to the area, and it was raining for the past week, so it'd be pretty miserable to do it.
The gate that you're talking about, does that, is that part of a paved road?
Yeah.
Like a service road?
Yeah.
How did you become familiar with that area?
I've been going up and down that entire area for years.
If you were just in Waramont Park, not down by the beach, would you necessarily be able to see this area?
Yeah, but there's a lot of trees in the way. You'd have to be like kind of at a weird angle.
And would that be like from the bluff area?
Yeah.
So you're down there with your friend, Evan, right?
Yeah.
Describe where you're walking when you see what you discover to be a human leg.
Kind of like the beach line, really rocky area. It was covered in clay and just stuff falling from the cliff. It's probably like this much ability to walk around the area.
Okay, and you're holding your hands out, maybe
Yeah.
a 3 or 4 foot, 3 foot spread?
Yeah.
Okay. And what drew your attention to that bluff area?
It was just the intention the whole time. There's no other way we couldn't go back just because the waves were pretty like extreme that day. So we had to go over there, and we just had no choice.
What drew your attention to the leg?
It was a pretty narrow path, so it's kind of hard to miss. At first we thought it was like a mannequin leg, but then we got a closer look and realized what it really was.
How'd that make you feel?
It's kind of hard to say even now. I don't think it's really hit me, but yeah.
What did you do?
We went up pretty much immediately, called the cops, and that's all I really remember from that time.
The police department came, right?
Yeah.
And did you have contact with a police officer or a couple police officers?
Yes, but most of the time I was in the car.
Okay. Were you down with the police officers on the beach area?
No.
You told them what you told us here today?
Yes.
I don't have anything further, thank you.
Cross.
Did you see any other people down by the beach when you were there?
No, it's just us that day.
That's all.
State anything further?
No.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. State your next witness.
The state calls Officer Zachary Desmet.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you could please be seated, state and spell your name for the record.
Name is Zachary Desmet. First name is Zachary, Z-A-C-H-A-R-Y. Last name Desmet, D-E-S-M-E-T.
How are you employed?
The city of Cudahy.
As a police officer?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been with the Cudahy Police Department?
4 years.
Were you working on April 2nd, 2024?
Yes, I was.
And were you dispatched to Waramont Park that day?
Yes, I was.
Around what time?
It was in the afternoon, early evening, late afternoon.
What were you dispatched there for?
I was dispatched there for a call reporting that they found a human leg on the beach.
Waramont Park, is that in the city of Cudahy?
Yes, it is. We have two parks, Sheridan Park and Waramont. They border each other.
So the Cudahy Police Department has jurisdiction over that area?
Typically, it's the sheriff's department that handles the parks, but if there's any imminent calls that come out or anybody that needs help immediately, we'll respond initially to stabilize the scene, and then it's usually turned over to the sheriff's department if needed.
Are you familiar with that area?
Yes, I am.
Can you describe the weather that day if you remember?
The weather was pretty rough. It was rainy, very cloudy, strong winds, especially down at the beach.
What did you do when you got there?
Excuse me. I arrived on scene traveling east on Pulaski Avenue, which comes from Lake Drive into the park. The water department is on the northeast corner of the intersection. Drive down, and then you'll come into with Sheridan Drive, and then there's another drive that leads down to the actual pump house with a gate. Arrived on scene, parked on Sheridan Drive facing north, and then observed two males in the field that would lead to the gate.
That location is in the county of Milwaukee, correct?
Yes, it is.
Describe I think what you described was like a service road with a gate.
Correct, yes.
Can you describe that further?
So there's the intersection, and then before you could turn right or south into Waramont Golf Course or north onto Sheridan Drive. But then if you continue east, it's probably, 20 yards worth of road, a service gate, and then there's a gap in the fence where people can walk themselves.
Did you notice anything unusual about the service gate when you arrived?
I notice that it was pretty heavily damaged.
So that's not a service gate that's like open to the public, right?
Not usually, no. I think only our water department has access to that.
Was there anything else aside from the gate being damaged in that area?
Not initially when I observed, no.
But you said there were two individuals in a field.
Correct.
Were you able to identify those people?
Yes, we were.
Who were they?
It was Evan Millies and Osyrus Terrell.
What did you later learn they were?
The people that discovered the leg down at the beach.
Was one of them the 911 caller?
Yes.
And did you have contact with them?
Yes, I did.
What happened next?
Well, I observed them to be, especially Mr. Millies, to be in a kind of a frantic state, obviously seeing something like that. They gave me a brief rundown that they think they found a human leg at the beach and wanted to show me where it was. So I had Mr. Terrell sit in the back of my squad car. I'm more familiar with Mr. Millies, so I had him take me down to the beach. We went through that side gate, or at the opening in the fence, where people can walk through freely. When you walk down, it's a steep hill, because at that point of the park, it's very cliff-like. So there's the service drive down to the actual water pump house is very steep, so we walk down there.
Can you further describe that area?
Sure. So when you're walking down the service drive, like I said, it's very steep. It's wooded on both sides with a little bit of an embankment that goes up the sides of it. And when you get down to the bottom, it's actually brand new, renovated, I think last year or the year before. It's a pretty open area for vehicles to park, and then there's a building on the right-hand side that has a fence around it that I believe has 2 security cameras, barbed wire. It comes down to the lake. There's large rocks at the end of it where it immediately abuts with Lake Michigan.
What is that building?
That's the pump house.
Okay. And that is a Cudahy city-owned building?
Correct.
You said the newly renovated parking area, is that open to the public, or is that for the pump house?
That's for the pump house.
Okay, so there's not another public access to that area, is there?
That's correct, there's not.
So can the general public drive a car down there?
No, they cannot.
Can you further describe, as you're going down there with Mr. Millies, how he directs you towards the leg?
Sure. So when we got down to the bottom, he had pointed me north from there. Obviously, there's a lot of debris on the beach, driftwood, rocks, etc., so I couldn't just clearly see it, especially with the distance. Now I am an evidence technician, so I know one thing that's really harped on in those trainings is keeping the scene secure and to not contaminate it as needed. So my initial plan was where there's the parking lot, there's kind of a steep hillside next to it where you can walk down. However, it was kind of sketchy that day because of the wetness. So my initial plan was I was gonna have Mr. Millies stay up there. I was gonna go down to the beach and then have him point me in the right direction as well as yell direction to me. I attempted to do that, but after, like I said, with the wind and the waves crashing, after about 20 yards, I couldn't even hear him anymore. So I reapproached him, had him come down with me. At that point, I had him walk in front of me. He had a jacket on, so I grabbed the back of his jacket just to be able to direct him, or if I saw anything that I thought was of evidentiary value, I could direct him or prevent him from destroying or stepping on it.
Can you describe, once you leave like the parking lot pump house area, is there a path? Is there a clear way to get to the beach from there?
Not really. Like I said, there's kind of a hillside on the side that is walkable, but again, depending on the conditions, it can be kind of iffy. That day was kind of rough, but we were able to get down there. The beach at that part is primarily rock, smaller rock, but still kind of generally unstable to walk on. And then you'd have the lake or Lake Michigan on your right-hand side or the east side. And then on the west side would be a steep cliff, essentially, from Waramont and Sheridan Parks.
As you and Mr. Millies are going through that area, what, if anything, do you see?
So, like I said, there's a lot of water coming down off the sides of the cliff, a lot of debris. The waves were crashing pretty heavily. While I was walking down there before that, Mr. Millies told me that the leg was actually located on the side of the cliff, or the side of the embankment, about 10 to 15 feet up. So as we were walking north on the beach, that's where I was initially looking.
So it was up from the water line?
Yes.
Approximately how far?
10 to 15 feet, he said, up on the embankment.
At what point do you see it?
We were walking probably for a little bit, probably about 100, 125 yards. And like I said, we were both looking left to the cliff, and he was estimating and saying that like it should be right around here based on some things that he had seen. And then as we continued walking, he got startled really quick. And I was like, what's up? And he's like, it's right there. And so I had moved him to the side, and about 5 to 8 feet in front of us the leg was located there.
And where was it relative to the embankment?
It was close to it, probably within 10 to 15 feet from the embankment.
Given the rain, was there erosion that was happening?
Yeah, there's some pretty severe, even you could see different streams cutting lines into the sides of the cliffs.
What did you do next?
At that point, I radioed my dispatchers and advised them that the leg was there, was confirmed, to request MCSO's response to shut down the scene. The only ways into the scene are from the Pump House Road and the S-curve down in Sheridan Park, which would be a significant walk, and then advise them on how to get to my location.
Before we go further in that area, can you describe how you would access that area from Sheridan Park?
From Sheridan Park, which is quite a ways north, probably at least half a mile, I'd say, or somewhere in that ballpark. You'd have to walk down a path. It's a steep path, but it goes down, it is paved down to the beach. And then you'd have to walk further south. You'd have to walk south quite a ways on that beachfront to even get to that scene.
What, when you located the leg, what were your impressions? What were you able to readily discern?
I could readily see that it was what I believe to be a black female, a leg from either a late teenager or younger black female. The leg was short and had pink nail polish on the toenails.
What did you do then?
At that point, I had Mr. Millie's stay. I put him on a rock, a bigger rock there. I told him to stay there, not move, and he stayed there until the MCSO, deputies Leon Martin and Michael Kruger arrived on scene, which at that point he was later escorted up there, back up the hill to where I would assume he would be interviewed further in depth.
So the Sheriff's Department joined you?
Correct.
In your walk with Mr. Millie's down the beach and in your observations in the area around the leg, was there anything else that you located?
I believe that on the way down there, Mr. Millie's made me aware that there was like a bra and maybe a t-shirt that were located, but he was unaware if it was related.
Then what did you do?
At that point, Deputies Martin and Kruger took Mr. Millie's back up to interview him. Upon further investigation, I was looking at the leg that it was cut from the basically hip joint down to the foot. Other than that, the leg did not appear to be as disturbed, and I observed the cuts on the leg to be clean and not intentional, or intentional, I mean.
That the cuts were or were not intentional?
Were, that they were straight, not jagged, not torn.
Did you move the leg at all?
Yes, I did. I had to move it 2 or 3 times just because the time of the day, the waves were getting, like I said, we were getting some pretty good waves and they were moving further and further inland. So 2 or 3 times I had to move the legs further, or move the leg further west to prevent it from being taken by the water, which was documented on body camera as well.
How did you do that?
I grabbed it by the ankle with my left hand and under the thigh with my right hand. Physically picked it up, moved it about 5-10 feet, set it down in the same way that it was laying, and then advised my dispatch to log that it had been moved.
Did it appear to have been in the water or decomposed?
It did not appear to be decomposing. It appeared to be fresh just based on my experience with other deceased humans. And there was a lack of blood. I didn't really see much blood on it at all, which also could be attributed to the rain that had been coming down.
That beach area, how would you describe the area in general?
It's usually pretty calm. We don't really ever get calls there mostly. If anything, it's usually like a dog complaint or someone just kind of loitering. But it's a beautiful area. It's not frequently traveled. It's hidden, secluded. Like I said, that was the second time I've ever been down there for an actual call.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Cross?
How long have you been a police officer?
4 years.
Okay, with Cudahy the whole time.
Yes, sir.
And Waramont Park is entirely within the geographical area of Cudahy, right?
Yes, sir.
And we have, would you agree with me that the park itself is 248 acres?
Sounds about right.
It has an 18-hole golf course,
Yes.
has a dog park.
Yes. Further south, much further south, the dog park is, but yes.
Right, because Waramont Park stretches along the coast of Lake Michigan, basically, right?
Correct, from about Pulaski Avenue down to College Avenue.
Exactly. And so there's walking trails, right?
Yes, there are.
And you said there's a dog park also at Waramont Park, right?
That's correct.
And doesn't the Oak Leaf Trail run through Waramont Park or into Waramont Park?
It does go through it.
Right, there's trails you can run on from Cudahy in Waramont Park and head north if you wanted to, right?
Yes, there's one paved path that goes to the park for the Oak Leaf Trail.
And there's even races that go through there. There's the South Shore Half Marathon, for example, that runs through that area, right?
There have been, yes.
So the park, when you say secluded, you're referring to that little beach area, but the park itself is not a secluded park, right?
That would be correct, yes.
It's In fact, it's a heavily trafficked park with lots of activities, right?
Yes, that part of the park where the pump house is located isn't as traveled as the other sections, but yes.
Right. And I think I heard you say before that a person, if they wanted to, can walk along the beach north to south or south to north. Didn't you say that?
Yes, I did.
In other words, where you find the leg, if a person had wanted to, they could walk up and down that beach north if they wanted to.
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, there's other parks that even connect in with it. There's Grant Park to the south, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
And Pulaski Park to the west?
Yes, but it doesn't really connect much.
And even Sheridan Park to the north, which you testified to, right?
Yes.
Thank you, that's all.
State?
Nothing further.
Thank you, officer. You may step down. State your next witness.
Deputy Leon Martin.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you could please be seated, state and spell your name for the record.
Name's Leon Martin, Leon Martin.
How are you employed?
Deputy Sheriff with the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you worked for the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office?
4 years.
You assigned to patrol, basically?
Yes, sir.
All right. Were you working back on April 2nd, 2024?
I was.
And what was your shift that day?
Second shift patrol.
What is second shift out in hours?
2 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay. Around 5:30 in the evening that day, were you dispatched to a call for service at Waramont Park?
I was.
Is that at or near 5400 South Lake Drive in the city of Cudahy, Milwaukee County?
That's correct.
What was the nature of the call you were responding to?
There was a report of a possible human leg found on the beach at Waramont Park.
And that was information conveyed to you by dispatch? So
Correct.
essentially you know what you're going
Correct.
towards? Okay. When you arrived on scene, were there other law enforcement already there?
There was.
Members of the Cudahy Police Department?
Yep.
Okay. What did you do when you got there?
I walked down. Initially, I parked at the top of the hill that leads down to the pump house. Was directed down the hill by other members of the Cudahy Police Department. Walked down the hill and was kind of flagged over to the area where police officers from Cudahy Police Department were already there.
This area that you walked down to would have been the pump house that is on the shores of Lake Michigan, fair?
That's correct.
When you got down there, were you guided to where this body part was recovered?
I was.
And were you wearing a body cam at the time?
I was.
I'm gonna have you take a look to your right if you can. On the screen here, I have what's marked as exhibit number 10. Do you recognize that?
I'll stipulate that's his body cam.
I'll play a clip from this first. This is exhibit number 10. The video is titled SUSP-5 Martin. I'm gonna play a short clip here. All right, I paused it at 8 seconds, started it at 0. Can you orient us right now? Where are we?
So we're at the bottom of the hill. Right now I'm facing north, looking down towards the beach.
All right, and on the left side, there's that steep cliff embankment. If you went up on the top of that, that's where the park would be, correct?
Correct.
You are at the end of the service road here?
Yes,
And did you have to climb down anything to get to the location where this video picked up?
I did. There was large tree branches and like other foliage and whatnot that was in the way.
Not somewhere a vehicle could get to, fair?
Correct.
But you indicated earlier that you had walked down the service road, and at the end of the service road, what's there?
There's like a barrier, like a traffic barrier, and then the lake is there. So it's like a roundabout, so you can turn around and drive back up the hill.
So vehicles can essentially get all the way down to essentially the shoreline, but could not get down to where you are right now in this video.
That's correct.
What'd you have to do to get down to where you are in this video?
I had to climb over a couple of large trees and just other like rocks and whatnot.
And how far did you have to walk to get to the leg?
That was about estimated, probably about 100 to 150 yards.
Where I have this video paused, you're basically at the start of that walk. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm gonna play it until 4:10. And there's no audio right now. When does the audio pick up?
Approximately 30 seconds.
That because that's how your body cameras work?
Correct. When you activate your body cam, it plays 30 seconds before you actually activate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good. I just cleaned my boots too, dude. Fuck, man.
Stand by. I have the on-call sheet. I'm trying to figure out what to give you.
So this is Evan Millies. We've dealt with him before. Sometimes he's mostly a good guy. He's gotten in this trouble a couple times, but good dude.
Okay.
So they walked down the S curve from Sheridan, started walking south just for fun, you know, rough day on the beach. As they were walking, see that leg right there?
Yeah.
Said that it was up about approximately where the end of that stick, that branch is.
By the bushes right
there. That bushes, said that they saw it up
So
there.
it's like up on the hill, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
So said that him and his buddy who's in my squad right now walked out, called us, and then when we came back, it was about, I don't know, maybe 7 feet east.
By the rock.
I moved it just for evidence purposes.
Okay, so it doesn't get swept away?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I documented it well on body cam with different angles of where it was. And
okay, cool. All right, we got
You want to tell me where it is?
What's your name again, bud?
Evan.
Evan? Okay, Evan. How long were you out here?
About probably an hour.
An hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
Event 16.
Do you usually come this way?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's going
The
to be
first time you seen
Marco.
anything here?
Yeah.
Yeah? It's the first time you seen anything like this?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. All right, Evan. Just hang tight. Don't go anywhere, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. That is 100% correct. Copy, thank you.
All right, hang on, Evan. We'll talk to you some more, okay?
Up the water pump ways and then called us.
Yeah, but at least I called.
Paused your body camera at 4:09. The objects right here, Deputy, that's the leg, correct?
Correct.
Now, as we were watching that video, sorry. You're able to see the waves there were pretty violent, is that fair to say?
That's correct.
And it was a rainy day?
It was.
Did you observe any blood or any kind of thing like that near the leg?
I did not.
Or near the area where he had originally indicated the leg was found?
That's correct. There was no blood around the area or on the hill where it was initially found at.
What did you observe about the leg when you saw it?
The toenails were painted with pink nail polish. Based on the size of the leg, I could estimate that the person that the leg came from was rather short. The leg didn't appear to be decomposing in any type of way. So I was estimating that it had been placed there relatively, short time ago.
The other member of the sheriff's department that we saw in there,
Mm-hmm.
so the person you first talked to, that was Officer Desmet, correct?
Correct.
The other member of the sheriff's department, who was that?
That's Deputy Michael Krieger.
Did you and Deputy Krieger canvass the scene or search the scene?
We did.
What did you find?
Nothing else of evidentiary value.
No other body parts, correct?
That's correct.
Was the medical examiner's office called to the scene?
They were.
Did they come?
They did.
Did they take possession of the leg?
They did.
Throughout that time, were there other members of your department who responded as well?
There were.
Did you search other areas, not just on the shoreline that we were watching on that video, but other areas of the park as well?
That's correct. At the top of the bluff that was on the left side of the video, that's a wooded area. Myself and multiple detectives and other MCSO personnel searched the wooded area and didn't find anything else.
I have no other questions.
Cross?
Good morning, officer.
Good morning.
So I just want to make sure I understand from where the parking lot is to the beach. So you said it's kind of like a wooded area?
Not necessarily. There's a steep slope, like a driveway to access the Waramont pump house. It's not necessarily a parking lot. It's just a service road that leads down to the pump house.
Okay, so to get from like the parking lot where the pump house is to the beach, is that flat or is it slanted or what's the terrain look like?
So it's like deteriorated from time and weather. So it's a steep hill that kind of goes down.
Okay, so it goes from parking lot, steep hill to the beach.
Correct.
And we could see on the video, it looks like the beach is quite small.
It is.
It's basically cliff, a little landing space, and then the water.
That's correct.
Is it always like that, or do you not know?
I'm not too familiar with that particular beach. That was my first time actually being on that portion of the beach.
Okay, and you said that you didn't observe any blood or anything.
That's correct.
Did you observe any drag marks as like a body was dragged?
I did not.
Did you you said you didn't locate any evidence of evidentiary value?
That's correct.
So you didn't find like a saw?
No.
You didn't find an axe?
No.
Or any sort of knife?
That's correct.
And it looks like you're walking through, it's a pretty muddy area. It looks like it's made of maybe like clay.
Yeah, or mud or like sand and whatnot. It's not like a normal beach, like Bradford Beach or whatnot.
Okay. I have nothing further.
State?
Nothing else.
Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you, Judge.
Does anyone need a bathroom break on the jury? If you do, raise your hand. Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute morning break, and then we'll come back and continue the testimony. Please leave your notebooks on your chair or on the bench in front of you.
Joe. Yep.
Okay.